So hello again, this is the second part of the Advent of Code exercises. The new requirement was so imagine we have a spaceship or something like that. We need to travel some modules, and in the first exercise we were calculating the amount of fuel needed for transferring the modules based on their mass. And now we need to also take into account that the fuel itself it's also a mass, right? So it requires some additional fuel to travel. So I started, let's maybe look at this. So there's this description of how to calculate a mass for the fuel itself. And if there is just two fuel, this fuel requires no further fuel. But the more fuel there is, we get kind of this recursive algorithm to calculate the fuel for the fuel itself until we get to the point where the fuel is not needed anymore. So for bigger numbers, we are applying the formula that was already implemented to the point where we get it down to zero when it's not required. So I'll show you my code changes. So showing you the diff in RubyMine. Let's maybe look at the tests first. Oops. So I've changed the assertions because now the expected output is different. So there is more fuel needed now for what was previously the same, and that's the only change in the test. And now the implementation. So for the space module required fuel implementation, I have extracted a private method just to hide this previous formula. It's the same here, but also, so now it's hidden behind fuel for modules, but also I'm calculating required fuel for the fuel itself, and I'm just basically adding it to each other. And I know this is not the most performant code, like this is actually calculated twice for fuel for modules, but I don't care. The performance at the moment is not probably important. So now I'm also adding to the fuel class, I'm also adding two methods. First one, because now I'm adding fuel plus fuel, I need to teach my fuel class how to adds itself to a new fuel amount. So basically we are creating a new immutable object of fuel. This object is not changed, we are just adding the amount. And the required fuel it's a new kind of algorithm here. We are applying the same formula as in here, but the only change we are adding is that if it's if the result was negative, because it's possible for those fuel to be negative because of this part, and then we don't want to return negative numbers, we want to just return 0. So I wrapped this into something like choosing the max. Probably there is a nicer way to do it. I will probably find that refactoring later. I don't like the fact that I have a local variable. I also don't like the fact that I have an if statement. I think I have an idea how to turn this if statement into polymorphism later. So probably I will have a zero fuel class. Maybe that will be the approach. And then zero fuel will return 0. I will just always call fuel additionally. And now, as every recursive method, with recursion you always have this first part, which is return early when the first condition is done. So if fuel amount is 0, we want to return the fuel. We don't want to go deeper in the recursion. If the amount is actually bigger, then we want to recursively go down until we get to the point where it's 0, right? So that's basically it. And this passed the requirements. I submitted the result, and just to show you maybe. This is the input that I have, and the code that I'm running. This is an ugly piece of code just to grab all the lines, build those objects, and return the result. And once I have the result, I'm submitting it to the Advent of Code. So I would like to this is really fun. So maybe you want to join the Advent of Code as well, given that it's just starting. I still don't know what are the rules. I'm not competing with anyone here. I'm just playing to have some nice design. I will see how what are the problems with my design. So probably there will be some good lessons here. So thanks for watching, and let me know if this is interesting for you, whether I should record the next approaches for the Advent of Code or not. Thank you. Bye.